I've always wanted to do one of these. Look how comfortable I look. Let's see, they're all,
Testing.
they're all on, I believe.
If you don't run this like the Graham Norton show, I'm going to be so disappointed.
Just flip the chairs back. Embarrassing stories. Can you briefly introduce yourselves to folks who don't know who you are? I mean, people know who Rosa is because she's already had half an hour this morning. But Amanda, could you introduce yourself to...
Yeah, I'm Amanda Perino. I run the Rails Foundation as executive director. If you're not familiar with it, the Rails Foundation was announced in 2022, officially launched in 2023 when I started, and Rosa is one of our board members. Do you want to say anything else?
It seems I'm like in the stage because I've been here a few times today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm part of the Rails Foundation as representing 37 Signals as a core member. So each company has a representative person there. So I'm that.
Cool. I'm start, Amanda. Rails World continues to sell out in record time. First of all, how? So, I'd love to find out the secret to that. But actually, like, Rails World feels like it sucks a lot of air out of the discussion around the Rails Foundation. So I'm interested in the other things that the Rails Foundation are doing and have been doing. I know you have an events background, so like that was obviously your primary focus when you started. But the other things that the Rails Foundation does, can you sort of talk us through the things you've been doing in recent times?
Thank you so much, because Rails World is the loudest thing that we do that you might have heard about. But we're not just a foundation set up to put on an event. We do a lot of other things. But that being said, there's one thing I want to say. Maria shared 2 photos of Taylor Otwell at Rails World. If you didn't get a ticket last year, Taylor queued with everybody else. So you can blame Laravel if you wanted to go last year and didn't get a ticket. But the other things that we do is documentation. So we're fixing the documentation, going through it with a fine-tooth comb. Harriet, who's speaking later, is on the documentation team. We also fixed the UX of the documentation so that it looks a little bit more modern. We are putting out new tutorials. That falls under education. So basically documentation, education, and marketing are the other things we do. We are working with Chris Oliver we did a new Getting Started tutorial, but now we're adding on features to that e-commerce app that you make in the first one. So that's coming soon, hopefully next week or the next 2 weeks. We're creating video content, and this would fall under marketing, for instance. When Rails 8 was released, we, as quickly as possible, put out a series of videos with Typecraft about Rails 8 features and what you can expect, and then put it into the documentation. So everything around the code base not involving the code.
How have you found the response to that from folks? Do you get much feedback on the documentation-y stuff? You get a lot of feedback from, like, I didn't get my goddamn ticket. Do you get much feedback on the other stuff, or?
Positive and negative, mostly positive, but for instance, we didn't put as much thought into dark mode that we should have. So the number one for instance, the documentation UX, the number one thing was, what the hell did you do to the dark mode? Can you fix it? And that came from internally as well as externally. But for the most part, everything has been overwhelmingly positive, and everybody likes to see the energy maybe that is being put into the framework right now. Not just the code base, which has been going on for a long time, but everything else.
Cool. And how do you manage the allocation of both, I guess, funds and your time across these multiple things that you're doing? Like, knowing how events can suck up time.
Yeah. You know yourself. We're now 3 months out from Rails World, so it really is a lot of event focus internally right now. But as soon as the event ends and then the downward slide of your doing final payments and everything, that's when I turn to all of our other projects and get those going again. So I think in my enthusiasm to do things besides Rails World, I end up throwing tons of balls in the air, and they end up falling at the same time. So for instance, in this next few weeks, we have a podcast coming out, we have the new tutorial coming out, we had a landing page created for the tutorial, we hopefully have a case study coming of a company that uses Rails at scale, and more documentation coming. So everything is coming at the same time. So I think I could do a better job of spreading it out, to be honest. But as soon as Rails World is over, I get really excited to do everything else, and I start it right away.
No, I understand you hate people too. I get it. Yeah, I put my hand up. Rosa, how does the board feed into that? Sort of, is it like an idea generation machine? Is it more of a like, good idea, Amanda? Why don't you do that? How does that work?
Yeah, I think it's a few different things. One is idea generation, and also like a sounding board. No? Like sometimes you come with Amanda comes with an idea and think, what do you think? And then people give feedback, or they have other ideas, or yeah, that kind of thing. And then sometimes people come with their own ideas from the board, like, what do you think if we did this and this? And then, yeah, Amanda evaluates that for viability, or for if she knows the community super well, so sometimes she knows better whether this could be something that would be like, useful or...
Cool. That's great. So the Rails survey showed 70% of devs on that survey had at least 7 years of experience, roughly. And only 4% had less than a year. That didn't necessarily stand up. I mean, can you put your hand up if you're in like the first sort of 18 months of your Railsiness, roughly? Yeah, like... Yeah, a dozen or so. Yeah, welcome, hello.
It's cool that you're here.
What are you seeing in the broader market, both some of jobs and the education materials that you're putting together? Like, how does that affect the work at the foundation? How does that affect your thinking? And so what are you seeing, and what is that making you do differently than perhaps you thought when you started?
It's a complicated question, I think, that I don't have a perfect answer for, but I'll try.
Come on, Amanda.
It's time to pull the lever for the red chair.
Yeah.
It's changed a lot since I started these past 2.5, 3 years. I am hearing a lot of complaints from juniors saying there aren't roles for juniors. So they put effort into learning Rails, but then there's nowhere to then be employed. That's what I'm hearing from people who are frustrated. Yeah. At the same time, I see that, for instance, we launched the Rails job board, and I see that jobs are coming, but they are mostly mid and higher, mostly senior level roles at the moment. So I think the roles that are out there matches probably the trend of devs, like 7 years plus experience at least. That's the majority. So then the foundation's challenge, and it's a really hard challenge that we haven't figured out yet, is how to create a warm and welcome environment for newcomers. And this isn't just Rails Foundation, this is Ruby Central is busy with this as well. A warm foundation for people to want to learn Rails, or Ruby and Rails, of course, and convincing companies that they can hire juniors, that they should hire juniors. And even between the last the board meets quarterly. So 2 or 3 quarters ago, several companies said that they were about to initiate large programs focused on junior developers, hiring a large amount of junior developers. 2 quarters on, I think the landscape is changing quickly, so I'm not even sure that those are going to happen anymore. So it's a little bit concerning, and if anybody has ideas, suggestions, please come speak to us. Also, Miles Woodruff is in the audience. He's the director of the Rails Foundation as well. We're really looking for ways to address this in whatever way that makes sense for the Rails Foundation. Documentation, education, marketing, and events.
Yeah, I mean, speaking as somebody who has hired 4 junior folks straight out of boot camps in the last 3 years, I'm like an everyday hero. But it's actually not that hard to integrate them into your team. I have a very small team. Like, the team is now more folks in their first 3 years of engineering experience than anyone else. So, like, if you are in a position like I am with a team and you do have a hiring need, do you know what? The best way to hire a senior developer is to hire them 5 years before they're a senior developer and make them into what you want. Like, there's a certain amount of brainwashing that goes on. But that's like good brainwashing, right? Right, I can't see you. Rosa, it's tangentially related. So, some of the early magic of, for me, some of the early magic of Rails was like when you got to like git push Heroku main, right? So the ease of, so I'm old enough, would you believe, that I was doing like tutorials and setting up boxes and stuff with slice host tutorials. Anyone of my generation? Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you very much. So like really in depth, like here's how you install Unix on a box in the cloud, kind of the things that have been taken away from us. But there's definitely sort of the boot camp era of people had that Git push. My God, my website is live. There has been more of a focus, certainly, on the sort of the deployment side of things. Like I know David's very keen on like the sort of Kamal and all the Kamal of it all. Do you think that that is potentially losing some of that focus on? I mean, obviously, the Heroku made financial decisions, and they used to give away free stuff, and now they give away slightly less free stuff, or it's very cheap. But that is enough to make that very differently. Do you think there's a risk that some of that onboarding ease has kind of gone away with the focus on?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but that makes sense, I suppose. I know that some of the type graph videos, we have one on Kamal, right, with the deployment. So maybe there is a way to solve that. I mean, not solve, but maybe improve that by providing like really, really good beginner-friendly documentation.
Yeah.
And also the tooling itself, maybe it comes, like maybe some company realize this, I don't know, takes the from Heroku takes the lead from Heroku and...
Yeah, I just thought of it as I was thinking.
Just thought of it as you were
Yeah. Okay, yes. So the foundation is sort of downstream of Rails to a certain extent. It's like, it takes what Rails builds and then produces events, education, blah, 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 blah. Do you find, increasingly, as you've sort of been in the job longer, like, is there an increasing mechanism for taking feedback from community and from people you hear because you're on the ground, more so than, say, the core team because they've got day jobs and things like that? Do you find that you can feed back into the roadmap for Rails in any way, or does that not really?
It's a really good question. I think probably a lot of people are curious about it, but if you pay at all attention to what the Rails core is doing and the issues team and the committers and the triage team, they're incredibly involved already, and they don't really need that mechanism. They don't need a middleman or a middle organization to feed feedback. They know full well because they're there having their conversations, they're in the PRs themselves. So no, that's not part of what we're set up to do.
Okay. And do you find, does the board have a sense of, I look at the board and I think, that's a lot of big companies. So I know you've grown the board, the membership of the sort of the paying contributors to the Rails Foundation. It seems to be, roughly speaking, this sort of second tier of folks are more in sort of the agencies, tools world, and then the core members, even the ones you've had recently, are big Rails teams. And there's sort of a sense of like how they're using Rails might be different to how a lot of more of the people maybe starting an app today might be using it.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a difficult balance to strike there?
In what way?
In that their needs from Rails different from, say, my sort of company. So we've got a team of, but the whole company's 13 people. So like our needs from Rails are different from Shopify, for example.
Yeah.
And like we all benefit from the Shopify stuff, obviously, but like those companies have a different view on the ecosystem than we do.
Okay, I think I understand. If I'm not answering correctly, just
stop
me and correct.
There was probably a question in there somewhere.
Yes. I think, so when every member joins the foundation at the core level or at the contributing level, I always ask, like, what's the motivation here? Like, how can we keep you happy to keep you contributing year on year? And then I always think it's going to be something like, if I see X amount of new customers or something, it's never that. It's never with a business outcome ROI in mind. It's always very community focused. We want to make sure, like, we like the work that you're doing. We see that there's a need for it. We want to make sure that further down the line, 10, 20 years, we have a pool of developers who are still we're going to be able to hire and work on our applications. So everybody has that need. That is shared across the board, whether you're a massive company or a smaller company. Or if you're like a one-person shop doing side hustle things, oh wait, except for that one. That one doesn't make sense because you're doing it on your own. But I think that the community focus and wanting the community to continue to thrive and have the resources to learn Rails, I think that's what they're primarily there for.
Right, cool.
Did that answer the question? We don't know what we're doing
Did
up
that-
here.
Just stop me or something. Just a subsequent question. There's some, we talked a little about sort of governance of how the foundation and the Rails core is different. There is definitely a sense of, and this is probably involving Rosa as well, like there are things that are in Rails. If you Rails new, you get the Hotwire stack, you get the solid trifecta, as it is known, of which somebody wrote quite a bit of that. But it's not Rails. It's not Rails core, but it does sort of fall under. How does that balance out? Like, from Rosa, from your perspective as an open source contributor and obviously employee at 37 Signals, but also Amanda, from your perspective, like, yeah, we sort of need to train people how to use Hotwire because it's the Rails way. How does that balance work out for you, and what do you hear from that? For me, that feels like when I hear what front-end framework should I use, and I guess there's probably a little bit of the previous question where it's just like those big companies often have special front-end teams they're using their Rails and React rather than the true Rails way. So Rosa, how do you balance that stuff? Like, Solid Queue's not Rails core, but it is Rails.
Yeah, I think that part is really separate from the foundation, I would say. Like, the foundation doesn't have any saying on whether certain gems are included by default in Rails or not. Like that, in the end, is Rails core and David, but not really the foundation. I think what the foundation can do in that case is just to provide more materials, learning materials and education materials, and to include the topics that people may need to, or people will be interested in, to include them in the conference, maybe, like for Rails World, for the topics that a given Rails World edition is going to be focused on. It's not only about all the core Rails stuff, but also other topics that are adjacent to Rails.
And how do you find that balance in terms of like the obviously again, like those bigger board members aren't necessarily using the Hotwire stack, but they are keen to have that educational material provided, and like that's something that they're interested in.
Yeah, and there's a gap that we haven't figured out yet as far as what should be in official Rails documentation when it comes to Hotwire, all the Hotwire gems, versus what should be strictly in the Hotwire documentation. Like we're having a lot of people ask to add more stuff to the Rails documentation, which makes sense. But finding that balance, I haven't found it yet. And frankly, we've been busy with fixing the current documentation before adding new guides. So I want to get that out of the way first and then really have a discussion with the core team and the 37 Signals team. I've broached it before, but we never had the time to go into the details. We will have